Stage 19, last day in the mountains, but it's never too serious to keep things clean. Flag went and a very complex breakaway formed in bits and wait for it pieces, but Bora Hansgrohe's Peter Sagan clearly wasn't feeling great and seemed to make the case repeatedly for maybe easing off a touch. But the battle for 12th overall, not joking, between Quickstep's Bob Jungels in the break and Katusha Alpecin's Ilnur Zakarin in the bunch made a reduction in tempo pretty much impossible. By 140k to go, the break had merged into a single mega group of strong rolleurs and hard-luck GC contenders, just in time for the Col d'Aspin, which saw a visibly laboring Sagan rely on a little help from his friends, while Quickstep's Julien Alaphilippe punched clear to mathematically secure the KOM competition. Katusha continued their work behind into the massive ore category Col de Tourmalet, but as literally the entire squad came to the front, including climbing domestique Ian Boswell, it became clear that the effort was less about gap management and more about launching Zakarin. Movistar's 7th-placed Mikel Landa hitched a ride, and AG Desert's 8th-placed Romain Bardet bridged moments later. And with both teams having riders scattered on the hillside from the early move, the trio had no shortage of assistance pushing up the road. Sky took the effort in stride. There were, after all, 100k left, but as Movistar pulled Andre Amador out of the break and Bora Hansgrohe's Rafael Majka bridged, the move began to look like a real threat. Between Alaphilippe's KOM irrelevant capture of the Souvenir Jacques Godet and Amador's recapture of the Alaphilippe group 30k later, the gap to the Sky-led bunch actually increased, moving Landa to within 90 seconds of the race lead, much to Darth Vader's delight. As Amador finally cracked at 54k to go and Sky pace-setter Wout Poels a few moments later, Lotto and El Jumbo put Robert Haesink on the front of the GC group, a calculated risk that helped protect Primo Roglic's lead over Landa, but didn't do much to close his 16-second gap to Sky's Chris Froome in third. Bardet didn't wait to find out how Lotto and El's gambit resolved, attacking at 51k to go while Amador drifted back through the GC group, handing out goodies to anyone who needed them because bike racing is hard. Ahead, the group coalesced in bits and pieces around Bardet, and at 49k to go, the dueling chase was back on, with the GC group slowly gaining as riders were steadily shelled out of each. Over the Col de Bordeaux at 40k to go, the gap had dropped to inside a minute 40, and the break reduced to 7, very nearly 6 following some uninspired descending from Zakarin. An attack from the bunch by Lotto NL's Steven Kruijswijk, just ahead of Landa on GC, seemed to be the writing on the wall the Movistar rider needed, as he charged clear from the front of the race, followed closely by Bardet and Majka. The Sky-led GC group rapidly lost ground to Kruijswijk, to the point that Sunweb's Tom Dumoulin tested an attack, only to find Sky's Geraint Thomas, the one rider ahead of him on GC, was more than up to the challenge. Sky's Egan Bernal brought the group back together and attempted to set tempo, so as Roglic went at 31.6k to go, it was Froome's turn to respond, and after a brief effort, he couldn't. Working to get onto the GC podium, Roglic brought Dumoulin and Thomas up to Kruijswijk, who latched on, forming a lead quartet at 30k to go. Bernal and UAE Emirates Dan Martin and Cameramoto reconnected with Froome shortly thereafter, and the trio were eventually bailed out by a somewhat oxymoronic mid-climb descent 5k later. Still, Kruijswijk didn't waste any time putting the screws back on, attacking immediately after the regroup and bringing Bernal right back to the front. Kruijswijk was recaptured 3.4k from the summit, and as the gap to the still race-leading Landa group dropped to just 8 seconds, Majka made his final bid for freedom. And because it's sort of a pattern, Kruijswijk, after one of the more awkward bottle handoffs I've seen, attacked again. One is left to assume that Roglic countered following Kruijswijk's recapture, as he had a clean set of wheels half a k later roaring past Bardet and Landa. The duo latched on, and the now shorter gap helped Dumoulin, who had no interest in forcing Thomas to work at the risk of second place. The long tail of riders even let Zakarin chase back on, and as the group looked around, Bardet attacked and Roglic followed, getting a gap again closed by Dumoulin to protect second, while Kruijswijk paced Froome back up because, actually, that doesn't make any sense at all. Despite the ruckus behind, Majka held on for the KOM just seconds ahead of the GC group, with Froome barely dangling at the back. As previously discussed, Zakarin is probably not the wheel you want on a damp, fogged-out descent, but the Skyrider snuck past him just a few corners in. Roglic wasted similarly little time getting past the occasionally iffy Majka and began pushing the rest of the GC group almost immediately, tucking down lower, staying tucked longer, and pushing the bike over harder, so that by the time Froome came around to show the rest of the bunch how it's done, Roglic had amassed some 15 seconds. Because Dumoulin was more vulnerable to this time gap than Sky's GC lead, I think the team car may have told Froome to ease off, forcing the Sunweb rider to work more. Froome still helped a little, but Dumoulin led alone from nearly 1.5k out. So while Roglic cruised in for the solo win, a fully rested Thomas could launch off what was effectively a lead-out from Dumoulin to snare an easy time bonus, bringing the Sunweb riders' total time losses to the race leader in sprints and bonuses this tour to 20 seconds. That could be a potentially GC winning margin in Thomas's 2-minute 5-second advantage over the world champ in Stage 20's short but hilly time trial. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.